Britain is a patriotic, liberal, democratic society with a proud past and a bright future. We're a reasonable country and a decent people. Our story is one of progress, of great achievements.
Hey, as a little preamble before the video starts, I just want to say that this only really works if you already agree with these statements on screen. If you need help with any of these, I suggest these two videos by Lily Alexandra, as well as really just her entire channel. But,
In 2013, when the United Kingdom, fashionably late as ever, voted to legalise same-sex marriage by a 20% margin in the House of Commons, the nation rejoiced, knowing that finally, hate had been banished from these fair isles, and love, equality, and acceptance had triumphed, once and for all. Except, yeah, you know that's not what happened.
American colonies, 1776. Amidst a long-fought and ongoing war of independence against no one in particular, the United States of America is founded, dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. In this moment, with no such hierarchical ideas as a king ordained by God, this new nation finally embraced true equality. Except no, they didn't. Only a few wealthy white landowners could vote, and some people could literally be owned by others. With the help of Britain and their big business partners, large groups of humans were kidnapped and brought to work in the sugar fields of Cuba, the cotton fields of Alabama, or the tobacco fields of Virginia. Then, in 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation finally brought an end to this horrific practice, where all freed people could live happily ever after. Oh yeah, black people still couldn't sue white people or serve on juries in many states, but then finally, around 1965, the Jim Crow era came to an end, finally cementing black people as being equal to white people in the USA. Of course, this subjugation and othering can't just be said for black people in the USA. No, the same can be said for gay people, Jewish people for about as long as they've existed, even going back to the likes of the Samnites, Samaritans, Israelites, Etruscans, or the fucking Sumerians, victim to the original conquests of the Sargon of Akkad. No, not that Sargon of Akkad, that Sargon of Akkad.
When we bring this whole shitstorm back into the modern day, we see the enlightened, hate-free minds and spirits of the modern Westerner, which surely brings into question which group could possibly be the subject of such unjust hatred and bigotry.
Well, it's trans people, obviously. I mean, you read the title. Oh, and Muslims. But yeah, we're mostly going to be talking about trans people. Now, if there's one thing more noticeable than the obvious continuity errors between this shot and the last one, it's that in the last few years, major efforts have materialized to combat the so-called trans ideology. The main proponents of this movement are often called TERFs, or Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists. However, I won't be using that term for these reasons. Now, these arguments are obviously harmful to trans people, but if we dig a little deeper, we can see how transphobic arguments also harm people outside the trans umbrella. In an interview with The Spectator, Julie Bindel, before going into the rails into talking bollocks about trans people as she and her besties just love to do, makes the point that in the early 1980s, lesbian and gay communities were more or less rolled together into one by outside pressures. This wasn't out of a particular unity in culture, no, it happened largely accidentally, and through a combination of a common cause for the ending of legal discrimination and the attainment of more legal rights. By the late 80s, the now lesbian and gay community had been expanded to include transgender people for the key reason of intersectionality, making the LGBT community. These strong unions of social change within the LGBT+ acronym are essential in just the same way as our strong unions of labour advocacy within the workplace. That is to say that the stronger a union appears within society, whether mainly oriented towards labour or social change, the better all of the constituent parts will fare. A good comparison is to think of a group of unionised workforces across industries as the LGBT+ acronym, with the workforces as the identities within it, and the individual workers as the individual queer people. In the same way that despite working in a steel mill and working as a bricklayer may have entirely different job descriptions, they still benefit from uniting their voice against the ruling class and changing society so they can enjoy the freedom they so humanly crave. When bringing all this to light, it may seem unnecessary for lesbians, gays, and bisexuals to even care about this need for unity. After all, gay marriage has been legal for over 10 years in the UK, and adoption has been legal for around 15 years in Northern Ireland, and closer to 20 in Great Britain. But this doesn't paint the whole picture. Hate crimes committed on the basis of sexual minority status are up 112% in the last 5 years, as well as a 186% increase on the basis of transgender identity, with a 56% increase in 2021-22 alone.
One common argument, generally pushed by a small group of transphobic lesbians, is that lesbians, which is to say cisgender women who are attracted exclusively to cisgender women, are being coerced into having sex with people they aren't attracted to, lest they be called transphobic. And while I don't want to invalidate anyone's experiences, I do want to say that the trans community, in my experience, doesn't tolerate any instances of sexual coercion wherever it may occur. With that being said, a lot of this moral panic is not actually based on this rise of the witch hunting of true lesbians TM, but more so out of the magnification and or fabrication of isolated incidents which are then over-extrapolated to the trans community at large and used to frame trans people, especially trans women, as the biggest issue that face society today. Do you mind? When the fight for female equality is turned into a fight against trans rights, it regresses feminism into protectionism against an imaginary threat, rather than trying to face the real issues that face women today, with the main one undoubtedly being wealth inequality with the super rich caused by exploitation of all workforces, including, as well as at times, especially women. Not only is it harmful to frame transphobia as a core value of feminism for the reasons that distract from the core issues faced by women, but also due to the fact that transphobia is often based on misogynistic assumptions. One recent example of these misogynistic assumptions in action is the case of La Fédération Internationale des Échecs, better known to us Anglophones and Francophobes of the world as FIDE, the International Chess Federation. FIDE recently published some new guidelines in relation to transgender participants.
In the event that the gender was changed from a male to a female, the player has no right to participate in official FIDE events for women until further FIDE's decision is made. Such decision should be based on further analysis and shall be taken by the FIDE Council at the earliest possible time, but not longer than within 2 years period. There are no restrictions to play in the open section for a person who has changed the gender.
Bearing in mind the game in question is chess, where there's no argument to be made that the distinction between transgender and cisgender women is for safety, given it's a fucking board game, the only other reason this objection should stand is that men, which is what these people define transgender women as, are just innately better at chess, rather than something sensible like the fact that fewer women play chess, or of those who do, fewer of them have grown up in the ecosystem of chess. So not only are people supporting bans like this supporting the transphobic belief that trans women are men, but the sexist belief that men are naturally superior in intelligence or problem solving. Cis women supporting this argument as a means of feminism only serves to undermine previous feminist efforts by effectively accepting inferiority and claiming it to be a biological reality. In his magnum opus, Industrial Society and Its Future, Ted Kaczynski coins the term surrogate activity, and while I do want to make it crystal clear that he was a piece of shit, both in his philosophy and its recommended implementation, I do think he was onto something here. He defines surrogate activity like this.
A surrogate activity is an activity that is directed toward an artificial goal that the individual pursues for the sake of the fulfillment that he gets from pursuing the goal, not because he needs to attain the goal itself. For instance, there is no practical motive for building enormous muscles, hitting a little ball into a hole, or acquiring a complete series of postage stamps. Yet many people in our society devote themselves with passion to bodybuilding, golf, or stamp collecting.
Bearing in mind this definition was originally used to justify his utopian vision of a scorched earth apocalypse, I should add an explanation as to how it's relevant here. The most influential British media outlets have this cute little trait of all being owned by billionaires. And if there's one thing you need to know about billionaires, it's that they love having money. Whose money? Your money. See, if the average worker wanted to make £1 billion from their day job in the UK, they would need to save every penny they make for more than 25,000 years. How do billionaires make money then? Well, they don't work for it. They own for it. Whether you're working for all but the trendiest of startups, a restaurant, or an insurance firm in the city, you are effectively selling your time for money. Sounds great. Well, not really. See, when you're selling your time, your employer wants to make something for it. After all, they're not keeping you off the streets out of the goodness of their hearts. No. Once you've generated value for your employer by selling your time, not only does he take away all the other costs such as rent and insurance from your paycheck, he also takes this magical crema from the top, known only as profit. Now, profit is unique in that it doesn't go to anyone within the workforce actually running the company. Instead, it goes to someone such as this, or this, or this, or this, or this. What they actually did to earn your money was that they bought a share of the profits. That's it. Take, for instance, the wife of the former Prime Minister, Akshata Murthy. While she may have never worked a day at Infosys in her life, because Daddy's the co-founder and gifted her a 1% share, she now owns $870 million of other people's money. Now, if you're not making monkey noises, throwing shit at your monitor, and screeching commie while progressively becoming more and more enraged, then you're probably wondering how all this is fair. Well, the not-so-hidden secret is that it isn't fair, and rich people would really like people to not think about that. In attacking the rights of trans people, gay people, and all those other people I mentioned in the intro, they're able to preoccupy the population with the surrogate activity of a culture war. For example, in the run-up to the 2024 general election, and elbows on that by the way, the Conservative-turned-Reform MP Lee Anderson said that a mix of culture wars and trans debate should act as a central tenet of the campaign. He then moved on to bashing Muslims closer to the time, but my point still stands, okay? The way that politicians are able to use trans debate as a central tenet of an election campaign is by designating trans people, especially trans women, not only as simply deluded, but as maliciously intent on causing harm to the cisgender women and girls by changing their gender marker in order to spy on them in locker rooms and so forth. This is, of course, bullshit, given the fact that bathrooms don't check your ID, trans men exist, which defeats the goal of keeping men out of women's bathroom, rape is illegal regardless of gender, actually I lied is kinda complicated and fucked up, most rape victims know their attacker, so framing trans women as the main perpetrators of rape contributes to misconceptions around it. There has been no evidence from the UK of anyone changing gender presentation to spy on or abuse people, even if there were, you would have to prove that this crime occurred at a higher rate among trans presenting people. Even if it did, that wouldn't discredit trans people, only rapists pretending to be trans.
And these are just a few reasons to disregard the pervasive idea of the trans predator as a real problem. But with these reasons being so blatantly obvious given just a few minutes' thought, you begin to wonder why they're repeated ad nauseum.
Hi, back to me sat at a desk. The answer is fear. There you go, that's your answer. They want you to be afraid, and if you're afraid, then you're more likely to listen to them. And if you're listening to them, then they have more influence, they have more power, and people with power generally like to keep it that way. There you go. Back to you in London. Sorry, I'm hearing we didn't film that scene either. So back to you in the black screen. This support against the imaginary threats created by minorities is crucial to the political and media establishment, mainly due to the fact that they do not represent the true interests of the working class. In attempting to cling to political power in this way, anyone closely allied with the government or its benefactors is in a good position to make a lot of money from corrupt dealings, such as Jacob Rees-Mogg, the oil millionaire who had a stint as Environment Minister. Or, oh hey again, Akshata, you abused the non-domicile tax status to avoid paying millions to the UK Treasury, didn't you? Yeah, and how long did you do that for?
Very long time.
Well, there we go. Let's face it, the past and present governments of the UK have consistently engaged in acts that crack down on fundamental civil and workplace freedoms, benefiting big businesses who stand to gain from having an army of little worker drones who do what they're told and accept that they can't afford the things they could 20 years ago.
The hate propagated minimises the problems we face into one neat little issue for the government to target, all to win elections and generate profit, not only at the expense of the civil liberties of the hundreds of thousands of trans people in the UK, but everyone else as well.
I think the best way to fill this outro is to leave you with a personal anecdote. It was a warm Saturday in February, and I had just gone out to celebrate a friend's birthday. It was pretty chill, and I was mainly just excited to actually be going out for once. While in the car to go home, I noticed some police tape blocking off an area near a park. I joked to my mother, who was driving, that maybe there was a police bus and they'd found loads of cannabis plants or something. I was wrong. That was the 11th of February 2023, and I had witnessed the scene outside the park that Brianna Jai, a 16-year-old trans girl, had been killed. One of the convicted killers had said to the other in a WhatsApp message, "I want to see if it screams like a man or like a girl," just 2 weeks before she was stabbed 28 times with a hunting knife, then left to die on this park trail. The killers were just 15 years old. The rhetoric we engage in has consequences, and when that rhetoric is driven by hate, the outcome affects more than just its direct target.